Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the End Zone Enthusiast, ending week 3, guys. So, real quick here, what a crazy weekend it was for the NFL. So many crazy games, and it ended yesterday with the Monday night game, Detroit against Baltimore. Now, if you look at the bottom of the screen there, as you can see there, we are kicking off this week right now at 25. Yeah, 25 and 7. So we started off at 25 and 7. It says 27 and 7, but it's actually 25 and 7 here. So we've had a great first 2 weeks here. But sad to say, this weekend, that kind of came to the end here. So before we get started here, why are we the End Zone Enthusiasts? We are coaster enthusiasts who also love the NFL here. And today I'm wearing a Six Flags America shirt. This park will be open for about another month, right after Halloween. It will be closing forever. So if you're in the DC Baltimore area and never saw this park, head there on the weekends, right? Of course, on Saturday, because there's no NFL games then. So go on Saturday, but Sunday and Monday, let's watch football. So we're going to talk about how we did this week with our picks, and we're going to talk about the game. So the first one we got to talk about is the Thursday night game, Buffalo against the Miami Dolphins. So going into this, most people thought it was going to be a blowout with Buffalo. All right. Buffalo was 2-0. Miami was 0-2. Buffalo looked amazing. Miami, not so much. A lot of people are actually predicting that the coach of Miami, Mike Macdonald, may be on his way out if he gets blown out here. Well, that did not happen. Buffalo did win. They did win, and we were correct on this one. Buffalo did win. However, Miami put up such a good fight that I believe it bought probably a month, maybe even a little bit longer, for Mike Macdonald to actually try to right the ship there. Now, Buffalo at this point here, they did not, it wasn't the Josh Allen show. Usually it's Josh Allen. Here it was James Cook. James Cook basically took over the game with the running attack there and really just kind of grinded it out there for that victory. But in Miami's case there, they finally did get some deep balls there. Tua made a couple mistakes. So even though Mike Macdonald might be off the hot seat, Tua, like I said, they paid him a lot of money. He hasn't really been showing up there with the money. The next game was, and there was a lot on Sunday here, guys, and this one is the Atlanta Falcons against the Carolina Panthers. So going into this, Atlanta was 1-1. They lost a last-minute game to Tampa Bay. Basically, Tampa Bay beat them with missed field goal, actually. They were going to tie it. They missed it. Since then, they actually went with another kicker. In Carolina, first game, they looked competitive. Second game, they looked like crap. So, of course, I took the Atlanta Falcons in this. This one was a no-brainer. Well, NFL proved me wrong. Carolina not only beat Atlanta, they demolished Atlanta. It wasn't even close. It was 30-0. And the new kicker who took over for Koo actually missed 2. So it rhymes, doesn't it? So not only did you get rid of the kicker, but that kicker didn't make the 2 kicks, and it really didn't matter anyway because they were annihilated. Penix looked like a rookie. Meanwhile, Bryce Young and the running attack with Chuba Hubbard, whatever. This looked really good here. So this was one, I don't think anybody got this right. Just because of how well Atlanta played and how, because they demolished Minnesota, how well they played and how bad Carolina's been playing. So this one I got wrong, but I can live with it because the next game, I'm getting right. It is the Green Bay mother-loving Packers against the Cleveland Browns. Now, going into this, you got 2-0 with 2 very impressive wins by Green Bay. They beat Washington the week before on Thursday night, and they beat their arch rival at home, Detroit, and it wasn't even close. Meanwhile, Cleveland, the defense has been amazing, but you can't win a game with defense, and their offense has been very questionable there. So, of course, wait a second. Green Bay lost to Cleveland. I got that wrong. I actually got knocked out of one of my suicide elimination pools because I picked Green Bay. So what happened here? Well, the defense of Cleveland proved that you don't really need an offense to win a game because they tied up Jordan Love. They were able to smash that the running attack. I mean, Jacobs got under 50 yards, I believe. It wasn't even close. Meanwhile, they did just enough to pull out that victory, and it came down to a field goal, I think a 55-yarder, and their kicker over at Cleveland, unlike a lot of other teams that have had questionable kickers, this time he nailed it at the right time. Pretty much the biggest upset of the year. Yet again, I picked Green Bay in my eliminator pool, suicide pool, and I'm out. And the sad part about it is usually this time of year, I play it safe. You look at the matchup there, you're putting money that, no, that's not going to be a factor. So at this point, I'm 1-2 going into this week. So hopefully I can start turning it around. And of course, now we got another game, which was kind of a 50-50 game. This was the Houston Texans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. At this point, Jacksonville was 1-1 and 0-2 was Houston. But Houston was putting up a fight. And Jacksonville, they should have been 2-0, actually. They should have won that Cincinnati game there the week before. But they made more mistakes than Browning did. But going into this, it was kind of a 50-50. And I actually picked correctly. I picked Jacksonville. So why did I go Jacksonville? Well, the defense of Houston has been really good. However, the offensive line of the Houston Texans is by far the worst in the league. And C.J. Stroud cannot get anything going there. And even though they do have the Cleveland running back, can't remember his name offhand here, but he's doing okay, but they don't have Mixon. And when Mixon's not in the mix, they're really down to Nico Collins as their only viable receiving. Meanwhile, Jacksonville, they got the tools. My biggest fear, and they got the defense. My biggest fear is Trevor Lawrence, is he going to play up to what he's getting paid? Not his potential, what he's getting paid. Because he's getting paid as a top 5 quarterback, and he has never played like a top 5 quarterback. They should be giving that money to like Baker Mayfield or Jalen Hurts or somebody, right? Somebody who's winning games, while Trevor Lawrence tends not to lose them. Well, in this case here, this was kind of, I got the win, I got the pick. But the reality is, I don't know if Jacksonville won it as much as Houston lost it. All right, next game is another 50-50. Here you got the 2-0, yes, 2-0 Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Minnesota Vikings, all right? So going into this here, the big news, of course, is Joe Burrow being out for the rest of the year. Technically, he can come back for the playoffs. But the reality is they're going with Browning. So even though they won the week before against Jacksonville, Browning did have 3 interceptions. So you're kind of leery, is this going to be the guy who's going to be able to do it? They have the talent with Chase and with Higgins and with Chase Brown and all those guys. Offensively, they have it. Defense, they're always susceptible. Going against Minnesota, who also did not have their starting quarterback, and they brought back Carson Wentz, who, as an Eagles fan, we all know him really well. He's played for 6 different teams in the last 6 years and played a game for all of them. But for some reason, he doesn't stick. So going into this, I went with Cincinnati because I was figuring Wentz is not going to be on the same level as Browning. I was dead wrong. Wentz, that system, remember, that system turned Sam Darnold into a well-paid quarterback in Seattle right now. And it seems to be doing the same thing with Wentz. There's no hurry to get J.J. McCarthy back because at this point, if Wentz plays the way he does, and it wasn't a Cincinnati defensive thing, it was more of a Cincinnati offensive thing. Yet again, Browning, way too many mistakes and just not being able to recuperate. And the score made it look closer than it was, and the score wasn't even that close. So I got that wrong because I thought Cincinnati was going to be, Browning was going to be in a better position than Wentz. I was dead wrong there. So yet again, I am now 2-3. I have a losing record right now. This is not good. Going into the next game, which is another one that could be a 50-50. Pittsburgh against New England. So going into this, Pittsburgh was 1-1. They looked really good against the Jets. They pulled that one off, but the following week, they looked horrible. Meanwhile, New England won against Miami the week before there, but kind of fought a tough battle there. So going into it, you had the experience of Aaron Rodgers going against Drake May and New England. And on this one, I got it right. I said Pittsburgh was going to win it, but the reality of this was the New England Patriots lost this. 2 fumbles by their running back, 4 fumbles altogether, 5 turnovers altogether. One of them was crossing the goal line. He dropped the ball at the half-yard line for a fumble. This should have been a blowout with New England. However, Pittsburgh did just enough on defense to win that game. Aaron Rodgers did not look great. They have one option, Metcalf. They don't have a number 2. For some reason, they got rid of Pickens. I know he's a drama queen and all that, but you didn't have somebody in there to replace him. So Pittsburgh gets this victory, but to be honest with you, I don't think they're going to make the power rankings, even though they're 2-1. But I did get this one right. The next one, Rams against Philly, and this was pretty much, in my mind, the game of the week. Both were 2-0 going in, and both of them we were trying to figure out, are they going to be legit? Is Matthew Stafford's back going to be okay? Will the Eagles be able to handle Puka and Devontae Adams? Because they got one good corner. Can they shut them both down here? And in the first half, the answer was Philadelphia cannot do it. But for some reason, a switch got clicked, and Philadelphia finally decided, hey, you know what? Jalen Hurts is a quarterback, but he also has an arm. He's not just a running back. And Dallas Goedert came alive. Devontae Smith came alive. And, of course, A.J. Brown came alive. So they finally were able to utilize that passing thing there. But the reality is I got it right. I picked Philadelphia, but yet again, 2 blocked field goals, that never happens. That was definitely amazing special teams. They got out of Dodge with a victory. And yes, it was a 7-point victory, but the reality was it was a 1-point victory. So with that being said, the Eagles stepped up and they won the game. And that's all that matters. They didn't look great against Kansas City. They won the game. They looked okay against Dallas. They looked great before the break, but when the thunderstorm came, they were shut down. So it's Dallas. Here, they looked like warm doo-doo the first half. And they righted the ship. Now, next week they got Tampa Bay, who's 3-0. I'm leaning towards Tampa Bay taking that game. It's my number 1 team against my number 2 team. Which one's going to do it? But this one matters. Did I get the victory? I got it correct. The next one is New York Jets against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Also a game that the Buccaneers win by the skin of their teeth. All right. They were basically dominating the entire game until the fourth quarter when a blocked field goal for a touchdown and made it, instead of a 10-point lead, a 9-point lead, it made it a 1-run deficit, but one point deficit. Well, you know what? Baker's got to bake, and I got it right. I got it correct. 3-0 are the Bucs. So they got a big game against Philly. Both are 3-0. Only one can win. I'm curious to see which teams show up there. But yet again, another pick I got correct. Next one we got is the Indianapolis Colts against the Tennessee Titans. Sorry. And you know what? Going into the season, we thought this would be a nice battle of 0-2 teams. One of them is 0-2. The other one's 2-0. And Indy just made easy work of this. Indianapolis does have a tough game next week against the Rams, and the Rams are going to be pissed because they lost a tight one here. But this one against Tennessee, I don't blame Cam. I blame their coach. I think their coach's seat is incredibly warm at this point. And even though most people were thinking Mike McDaniel will be the first one to go with the Dolphins, I think the first coach is going to be fired is going to be Tennessee. But I picked it correct. Indiana Jones is doing exactly what he needs to do. He has a great running attack, and people have mentioned that his best season with the Giants was the year that Saquon went off. Well, guess what? He's got Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is the number 1 running back in the league right now. All in all, they're doing great things in Indianapolis. Hopefully, they're able to step it up and beat a formidable team with the Rams next week. The next one. I thought this was going to be a closer one than it was. It's the Las Vegas Raiders going against Washington Commanders. Now, going into this, they're both 1-1. The Raiders had a good victory in week 1, not so good week 2. Same thing with Washington. Both of them are pretty equal on that end. But Jaden Daniels was not playing. So because of that, I picked the Raiders to take it because I didn't believe in Marcus. did not think he was going to be able to do what he did. Well, I was dead wrong. He stepped up. He took that game, and I had a 50-50, and I went the wrong way. I thought that Geno Smith was going to be more polished than Marcus Mariota. And the reality was Geno Smith had a great first game, but now he's making way too many mistakes, especially for a veteran. And the sad part when it comes to the Raiders is they don't have anything underneath it. They have AOC, but I don't know if AOC is going to be able to do much better with the tools that he has. The running back, Gentry, did better last week, this week. But the reality is he's still got a long way to go. And for some reason, Chip Kelly is not launching into Bowers every time. So a lot of problems over in Vegas. Washington gets the victory. Jane Downs should be back next week. The next one was a battle that was basically going to determine who is the leader of the AFC West. Notice neither one of these teams is the Kansas City Chiefs. You had the 2-0 LA Chargers going up against the 1-1 Denver Broncos, who lost on a leverage penalty. All right. So the reality is both these teams should be 2-0. And the reality is if they're both 2-1, that meant Denver would win and they'd be there. So this was for the lead of the AFC West. 3 weeks in, having somebody that's not KC in the lead is fantastic. But going into this, I was kind of going back and forth, but I made the right call. I picked LA because they just seem to be clicking on so many different levels. And the defense, which is Denver's strong suit, the week before were the reason for the loss. Well, this week, everything was the reason for the loss. The defense was good. They hit Herbert a lot, but they weren't able to close out drives, just stop the drives and not allow the Chargers to get points. Meanwhile, the offense, Bo Nix, he has great highs, but he also has really low lows. And in this one, he did a lot more lows than highs. The next one is kind of an easier game to figure out. It is the New Orleans Saints against the Seattle Seahawks. First week, Sam Darnold looked a little bit shaky, but the week before that, he was doing pretty well. Meanwhile, the Saints, which most people thought were the worst team in the league, actually have been playing very competitive ball the last couple, the first 2 games. So going into this, I thought it'd be a little bit more competitive than it was. But the reality is, and I did get it correct, Seattle's back, guys. That was a very complete game all around. The running attack, the passing attack, Darnold's looking great. Smith Njigba has been the lights out as a wide receiver there. And the defense really handled everything that was being thrown. And then, of course, you got all these extra, the turnovers and stuff like that. So Saints look more like the Saints that we thought going into this year. And Seattle's looking like a really solid challenge for the NFC West. Next was a game that, yet again, there's been a lot of upsets. And this one, Dallas against Chicago, not a Dallas fan. I love it when they lose. But going into this, Chicago looked horrible the first 2 games. The first game, they looked decent. They lost last minute with Minnesota. But last week, they looked horrible. They looked lost. Well, one thing I learned in life, never bet on the Cowboys, because I did. And Chicago, they looked like they looked that the way that you would think Ben Johnson's team would look. They were dominant on every aspect of the ball. And the key is Dallas's defense looks pathetic. I mean, the Eagles win against them is looking a little bit worse now. But all in all, Dallas at this point has some major problems on defense. I know they have Clowney coming in. He might have played, may not have played, but I think they got a lot more problems than just Clowney, especially the way Chicago just destroyed them in this game. The next one, 2-0 team. I mean, 2-0 teams. Arizona against San Francisco, and both of them were kind of limping into this game. Arizona won games that they should have won, but they didn't win them convincingly. Meanwhile, San Francisco is just people. They lost Nick Bosa now. They are the walking. Kittle's gone. The only guy who's healthy right now is McCaffrey, which is the most ironic thing in the world. But Mac Jones has been playing really solid. Now going into this, I just can't believe in Arizona anymore, and I was correct. Arizona yet again gave up this game. If they would have played better coaching, if they would have did better clock management, if they would have, it was 3rd and 7 or 8, and they decided to pass the ball, which was incomplete. stopping the clock and allowing the 49ers time to get upfield and kick a field goal. And it looks like they got a field goal kicker now. So San Francisco's 3-0. It's hard to believe they're 3-0, but they are 3-0. And Arizona is exactly what we thought they were. Now, the night game, everybody and their grandmother was going for one direction unless you lived in Kansas City. And that was Kansas City against the Giants. And there was hope because the Giants played really well against Dallas the week before. Well, now we know Dallas is a fraud. So going into this, I picked the Chiefs, and it wasn't even close. Russell Wilson needs to be benched at this point. You need to put in Dart. You need to put in Jameson Winston because I'm okay. Like Joe Flacco is not winning games for Cleveland, but he's also not losing the games for Cleveland. Russell Wilson he's going to throw that amazing pass or it's going to be returned for a pick six. Too many swings. What you need is a consistent person there. Winston's not that guy. I think the only guy in the New York Giants bench or that can play would be Dart, because I think he's probably the most mature of the three quarterbacks when it comes to ball control. Kansas City, yeah, you won. Next week, you're going through the ringer again. There's a great chance that you're going to be 1-3. Baltimore is 1-3, and so is Kansas City. 1-2. Both are 1-2. One of them is going to be 1-3 and pretty much having an uphill battle to try to win a division. So with that being said, what a lot of people thought was the game of the week, Detroit against Baltimore. I just told you, Baltimore lost, and it wasn't even as close as the game was. But of course, I picked Baltimore because I'm a moron this week. So, but with that being said, Detroit is definitely showing that they were shaking off the rust in Green Bay. You thought were that good, but of course it is lost to Cleveland. Meanwhile, Baltimore is 1-2, looking up at Cincinnati and Pittsburgh in the division and basically being tied with Cleveland. So at this point, they got a huge game. There's a must win next week, Kansas City against Baltimore, and whoever loses that might be out of the playoff race there. So how did I do? Well, overall this week, I did 10-6, winning record, but man, I got beat up. I mean, I got the Carolina victory wrong. I got the Cleveland victory wrong, the Minnesota victory wrong, the Washington victory wrong, the Chicago victory wrong, and of course the Baltimore victory wrong. Some of these were 50-50s, and some of them, nobody had Carolina beating Atlanta. Nobody had Cleveland beating Green Bay. So with that being said, I'm disappointed, but I am 35-13. Still a pretty good record right now. So the way things go here, tomorrow we're going to be dropping our power rankings. So, and there's a lot of changes on the power rankings, a lot of people moving around. And then on Thursday, we're going to be doing our picks for week 4. Hopefully we don't have these crazy outcomes here. So once again, fly, Eagles, fly. Baker's got to bake. And Bills, just keep doing what you're doing.